What's up, you guys? We're talking UFC Vegas 106. And remember, after these fights take place, we do have a week break in action from fights taking place. So enjoy these fights while they're on. Because I know some of you guys are looking at this fight card and you're not really that pumped about it. I get it. Not a lot of big name value throughout the card. It's a pedestrian UFC Vegas type card. But enjoy it. All right. The centerpiece, of course, in the main event, Gilbert Burns is taking on Michael Morales. That's a good fight. There's a lot on the line there. Michael Morales still undefeated. He is a phenom. Another great addition to what, in my opinion, is the most stacked division when you're talking about top tier talent, right? The welterweight division, it's just crazy right now. If Morales goes out here and defeats Gilbert Burns, he then keeps that trajectory of mixing his name up with all the high level fighters towards the top of this division, right? When you're talking about fighters like Sean Brady, Ian Gary, Shavkat Rakhmonov, of course, Carlos Prates just took his first L in the UFC, but what a talent he is. Michael Morales has all the abilities to be fighting at the very, very top of this division against all those types of names. Of course, we just had the championship bout take place between Belal Muhammad and Jack Della Maddalena, and I really like what's going on in this division. Now, for Gilbert Burns, if he takes an L here, he'll be on a 4-fight losing streak, although it's been against high-level talent. He's 38 years old. Who knows? I mean, this could potentially be a retirement fight. I don't know if we're quite there. He probably will get one more opportunity. Maybe the UFC will give him an easier matchup, but he really has his back up against the wall. If you're new here to the channel, just please, guys, subscribe. Hit that like button. It means the world to me. Go catch me on my social media. And if you want my official targets, reach out to me. I'll give you further information there. We're going to start with the first fight of the card. We'll work our way up towards the top. We got timestamps and all that. Let's get into it.
The teller.
Kicking the card off, we head over to the featherweight division where we have Connor Matheus taking on Yadier DelValle. And I'll let you guys know real quick. I'm going to do this episode a little different than usual. I'm going to be a little quicker to my prediction. All right, we'll make this video clear, quick, and concise for you guys, and you guys let me know how it plays out. But again, this isn't the biggest fight card, so we're going to do it a little bit differently here. Both these fighters come into the UFC from Dana White's Contender Series, but Yadier is making his UFC debut. Connor Matheus has already had a couple opportunities to fight in an official UFC bout. He is 0-2. He was knocked out in both of those fights, right? Took an L against Dennis Bazukia and Jose Delgado. Yadier looked pretty good to me, man, in that Dana White's Contender Series fight against Antonio Monteiro, who is a fighter that fights out of a big camp over in Brazil. I think he fights out of the Nova União camp, and he had a world of experience going into that match, and Yadier was a step ahead there. So I think that was a big victory for him. Also, if you run back Yadier's victory a couple fights ago against Michael Aswell, you could pull that bout up on YouTube. Aswell is a fighter that I believe it is a very good one. Okay, he fought on Dana White's Contender Series. He lost a split decision to my boy Bogdan Grad, but Aswell has real boxing skills, and that was a fight that played out closely, but Yadier showed some grappling abilities in that fight. He showed that he's pretty technical with his striking, and he was a slight step ahead there, and I think that Aswell is a fighter that probably gets a knockout over Connor Matheus. Matheus relies heavily on his grappling. I don't think he's going to be able to exploit DelValle there. And I think that Yadier is going to be able to outpoint him on the feet, fighting out of that southpaw stance. I could see him landing pretty good here. I don't think he's going to get a knockout, though. He only has 2 knockouts out of his first 8 fights. He's been more of a decision type fighter, but I do believe that he has the grappling to avoid being subbed or dominated by Matheus there. So that's important because that's what Matheus really looks to do. Matheus already 32 years old. He's kind of got a little bit of a late start to his UFC career. I would say, in fact, his UFC career is on the line right here. So he's going to be very motivated, but I still don't think it's going to be enough. I think that he will lose a decision. Give me the Cuban to get the job done. Now let's take a look at where this line is. We're going to see that DelValle is a big favorite. He opened up as a minus 450 here that we're looking at, and now he's a minus 426. So the line's coming back a little bit, but he's up in the minus 400 range. I would just caution you because he's not extremely proven. That's one thing that you have to know. And I think that people are just looking at Matheus like he's a complete scrub based off the last 2 fights. But I do believe that the line may be a little inflated. Okay, so I would caution you there. For those of you guys that think you're just going to throw DelValle in a parlay and it's just a guaranteed lock, I don't know if that's the case. We need to see more from him. Again, that Oswell fight did play out pretty closely, but not crazy about the line, but give me the Cuban to win a decision. We're going to jump over to some lightweight action between Jared Gordon and Thiago Moisés. Moisés is still just 30 years old. It's crazy when you think about it because he's been around the UFC for some time. He's a high-level grappler. His striking, it's been being worked out throughout the years, but you still take a look. Only 3 knockouts out of his 19 victories, and that's something I definitely wanted to bring up because when we've seen Gordon run into trouble at times, he does get knocked out, right? 4 of his 7 losses come by way of KO. Now, that could be a little bit of a problem because if Gordon avoids being KO'd, and this is a fight where we really start to see it chugging along, Gordon has good cardio, and he may be able to mix things up and push a pace on Moisés. Don't forget, he won that fight against Paddy Pimblett. The Bobby Green fight was a no contest, essentially. And even that last fight that he just dropped an L to Nasrat Haqparast, that was a fight that went to a split decision. Okay, so Gordon, and I'll say this, the only time we've seen Gordon submitted was against Grant Dawson, who's very high level and a fellow teammate of Moisés. But out of all these bouts that Gordon's been in, he's only been subbed once. And those are important factors because Moisés is great at pulling off the sub. Is he going to be able to do that against Gordon? I'm not so sure about that. Or is he going to be able to knock Gordon out? I'm not so sure about that either. Okay, so these are some signs that show that Gordon is definitely live in the spot. Of course, we know that's the case here. But I'll throw a curveball to you guys. I've been a little bit back and forth. One of the things that I like from Moisés in this spot, of course, is the fact that Gordon is getting up there in age. He hasn't been that active. Okay, he's 36, and the last time that he was in there in that Nasrat fight, that was a while ago. Okay, I think it was about a year ago. Meanwhile, Moisés was just in there 3 months ago, got a nice little victory over Trey Ogden. And when you take a look at Moisés' losses, they're all against high-level fighters. Okay, that's one thing that you have to note. And he has some scattered respectable victories as well, but it's those high-level fighters that give him major problems. And I don't know if a 36-year-old Gordon is that. I expect this fight to play out closely, but I also expect to see continued development in Moisés' striking. He has the youth going for himself, and I am going to lean towards Moisés' way in this spot. Now, the line's very close here. You're looking at a very slight lean on Moisés right now as we're filming this. He's right around like a -125. You can get Gordon right around even odds. This is a close fight. I feel more comfortable backing the more recently active and younger fighter here who surrounds himself with some really good people over at American Top Team. Women's strawweight action set to take place here between Denise Gomes and Elise Reed. I think that this is a little bit of an underrated fight, especially for you guys that really like your WMMA. Elise Reed is an underrated fighter, okay? And in the sense that you take a look at her, she's 8-4. You take a look at the betting odds that are typically next to her name. She's usually a dog. People kind of overlook her. And if you actually pull up her resume, she has a couple of respectable victories. She's coming in off that victory over Jessica Penne, which Penne is aged, and I'm not putting too much merit into that, but I also will give her some credit for putting on a clinic as she landed 229 strikes, and you saw the boxing skills on display. But you take a look at the Melissa Martinez victory, where she pulled off the upset, and Martinez has since bounced back with the big victory. Corey McKenna is not a bad fighter. She was a dog in that fight. She has a victory over Jasmine that took place back in 2020. Of course, Jasmine has evolved a lot, but still, that's a very respectable victory. I think that people kind of overanalyze the Sijara Eubanks loss. That was a really bad one for her. That was her UFC debut, so people kind of always labeled her off that victory. They kind of just remember her getting smashed by a lower level fighter and Eubanks, right? She was able to hang around for a while, but she really wasn't all that. So you think about the Loma fight, she was subbed there too. You're watching a Muay Thai fighter pull off the sub on you. So that's really going to make people discredit what your abilities are. I think that's kind of what the story is, but I'm telling you guys, she's not that bad. And this is a fight that should play into her strength. I expect Gomes to, of course, want to throw down with Reed, and Reed's slick there. When it's all said and done, although Reed is still evolving as a fighter, she's 32, and we could still see her grow and look better than ever. Denise Gomes is just 25, and she's already shown us some real talent, and she should look to take her game to a whole nother level here and build off the little winning streak that she has going. We saw her be able to avoid being smothered down on the mat by Eduardo Mora, and then she was able to go out there and outstrike her. I thought that was an impressive performance. We saw what she just did to Karolina Kowalkiewicz. She outstruck her handedly, even had some control time down there. But I think that an older Karolina Kowalkiewicz is not on the same level as a 32-year-old Elise Reed. So don't be surprised if this fight plays out a little closer than some of you guys think. At the end of the day, yes, I still am on Denise Gomes. I just think that she's going to be more physically strong, and her striking will be more powerful, and she'll continue to evolve and be more technical than ever. I like Gomes here, okay? But what I'm getting at is, as we take a look at the betting odds, I'm not crazy about that. I'll tell you that much, okay? We see Gomes up around almost a minus 500 right now. I just don't see a lot of value on that. And I think that if you're just completely overlooking Elise Reed here, you could potentially be in for a shocker. I don't know. You know what I mean? What do you have to gain by mixing Gomes in a parlay? I just don't really see a lot of value on the line. I'll say that Gomes wins this fight via decision. I don't think that she gets the knockout, even though she is powerful, and we've seen her go out there and get 6 knockouts out of her 10 victories. And we have seen Reed finish in 2 of her fights and subbed in the other 2, so she's been finished. I still am going to favor this fight going to a decision. Gomes will land some damage, but I don't think she finds that finish. We got back-to-back women's strawweight bouts here. This is ranked action. Luana Pinheiro taking on Tecia Pennington. Luana Pinheiro, this was a girl that I once held in high regard as a prospect. We know that she had that judo background. She had a very solid performance on Dana White's Contender Series, where she had the first round knockout over Stephanie Frosto. But you know what? In her UFC debut, where she got a victory over Randa Marcos, I thought that fight was very alarming, the way that she looked for a way out, right? She got hit with that illegal up kick. Randa Marcos was just getting going. She was looking for a scrap, and it didn't seem like Luana wanted any part of that. Okay, now she did bounce back with a couple victories after that fight. She went to a split decision with an aging Michelle Waterson, but since then, it just hasn't looked really good. She comes into this fight on a 3-fight MMA losing skid, also lost a little grappling match there too. She was subbed in the first round. And although it's against respectable talent, I think that she may be in for some trouble here, because Tecia Pennington, although she's 35 years old, she still seems to be very hungry. Okay, she looked great against Carla Esparza in that last match, and even in some of those losses, she still had moments. I thought that she looked pretty good in some of those matches that she lost there against Tabitha Ricci and Mackenzie Dern. In fact, I had her winning that fight against Mackenzie Dern. I was there live, right? That was the card that took place in Jacksonville, and I thought that was actually quite a robbery. You guys can go look up online with where the media had the scoring. Go check verdict and all that. I thought that she won that fight. So, besides that, she was on a 3-fight winning streak going into that, and I think that Pennington just still has a lot more to offer. She could do a little bit of it all. So she'll be ready to go anywhere that Pinheiro wants to try to take this fight. And at the end of the day, I think that Pennington is going to have more of a fighting spirit, and she's going to look to take Pinheiro's will. She's going to dominate this fight. And the question would be then, does she find a finish? Half of Pinheiro's losses come by way of finish, 2 come by way of decision. Pennington, without a doubt, is a decisionator. I mean, you take a look, 13 of her 14 victories, and not including some of the Ultimate Fighter fights or whatnot, but she's typically going to decisions, right? The vast majority of her victories, and I'm not going to stray away from targeting her to win via decision. I mean, that's how I'm going to go there. So give me Tecia to win a unanimous decision. I'm going to say it's pretty convincing. She's another big-time favorite. This is another high line here in a women's strawweight bout, and I could say, oh, it's a little bit more warranted. You know, I was just raving about Tecia and how good she's looked, but I'm still not crazy about targeting a fighter like Tecia in this spot at almost a minus 500 type of line, okay? Because that's who knows where this line's going to trend and where it'll settle, but I don't really feel comfortable in that, because Pinheiro does have some skills, right? She has the judo skills, and her striking isn't that bad. She's shown some flashes with her striking, so I know I've been raving about Tecia, but based on where this line is, there's just not a lot of value there. The value would probably still have to be on the dog. I mean, just realistically. The Korean Hyun Sung Park makes a return to the octagon. It's been about a year and a half. He's taken out Carlos Hernandez, a very pedestrian fighter. When you're talking Hernandez, kind of reminds me of a meat and potato type of meal, but not just any meat and potato type of meal, because there's a big difference, right? From like a nice mother home cooked meat and potato meal compared to like swinging by Wawa before you hit the road. And I think he's more of a Wawa meat and potato type of meal. But I mean, listen, take a look at his losses. do understand they come by way of high talent, right? When he's losing to these high-level Asian fighters like Rhea, Sayura, and Tetsuro Taira, those fighters are much more proven, in my opinion, than a Hyun Sung Park is. Okay, Alan Nascimento is a very dangerous grappler, right? Fighting out of Brazil. I put a lot of stock into an Alan Nascimento, so those losses aren't the worst blemishes. And he's also snuck off some victories here. He comes in off a split decision victory over, you guys are going to make me say his name, right? For all you people that hate my pronunciations, how about this? Nayam Jergal Tumandembarel. How you guys like that right off the top? Has a victory over Denise Bondar. Don't put too much stock into that. And then his other two victories as he kicked off his UFC career, right? Dating back to the Dana White's Contender Series fight against Daniel Perez. Both these fights went to a split decision. I think that he lost both of them, all right? And then the fight also against Victor Altamirano. But you still got to give him credit because they were very close. And I think that Daniel Perez is a very good fighter. He has nasty boxing. So, I mean, he does show that he's not completely in over his head here fighting in the UFC. And I think that he's definitely live. He's been a lot more active. And another thing, too, is when you look at Park hasn't really been in there with anybody. And even in some of those fights where he prevailed, right? When you think about the Shannon Ross fight, that was Shannon Ross's fourth loss in a row. Okay, he was already a shell of himself in that fight. And even early on in that fight, Shannon Ross touched him up a bit. I'm not crazy about the defensive striking skills that I've seen from Park, although I like some of the offensive skills that he possesses. He is a fight finisher, but I don't know if he's going to be able to find a finish here. And I think that this is a fight that could play out pretty closely. And I'm going to say the value is on Hernandez. And I'm going to pick Carlos Hernandez to win this fight. I'm going to say that this fight plays out very closely. And I'm going to say that Hernandez displays some of the boxing skills that he possesses, some of the overall abilities that he possesses, using maybe his wrestling skills to keep the fight standing, or maybe you see him even try to mix things up and get a takedown. He also has a slight size advantage here. He's an inch taller. He'll have about an inch reach advantage here, so he has a little bit of a bigger frame. There's some things here that are pointing me towards Hernandez's way. He has a little bit more experience, more UFC experience. So yeah, I am going to actually pick Hernandez to win this fight. And as he's a dog, he's right around a plus 150. I think there's more value on his line. This is a very close fight. Maybe we see that Park, since he hasn't been fighting that much over the past year and a half, or he hasn't fought in a year and a half, maybe we see him take his game to another level, depending on what he's been doing in the gym. I mean, that's not out of the realm. But I'll pick Carlos Hernandez to go out here and get a decision in a close one, maybe a split decision victory, like he always tends to do. He snags those split decision victories. Give me meat and potato, Wawa, Carlos Hernandez. Hey guys, real quick, as always, I like to just pop in the video and just thank you guys for tuning in. It means the world to me. You guys know if you smash the like button and subscribe, it really helps my momentum out here with the channel. And I appreciate you guys greatly. Don't hesitate to reach out to me if you want my official targets, or you just want to shoot me any type of message, man. If you guys have any recommendations for the channel, anything, okay, I'm always all ears. Appreciate you guys. Luana Santos goes up in weight from the flyweight division up to the bantamweight division. She's taking on Tainara Lisboa. Lisboa, she's been away from the fight game for some time. She's coming into this fight off of like a year and a half layoff. Okay, so there's a lot of interesting factors going on in this fight. Of course, Luana Santos came into MMA with the high-level judo background, right? She was a European judo champion. Meanwhile, Lisboa had the kickboxing and Muay Thai experience. She was in the ring with girls like Valentina Shevchenko before really diving into the MMA world. Okay, so there's a lot of contrasting things going on here. Luana Santos is the young 25-year-old fighter, while Lisboa is 34. Okay, so there's just a lot of aspects of this fight where you could look at it and try to say, is there an advantage here or an advantage there? Okay, and I've been very back and forth. Luana Santos, even though she has that grappling background, she has shown to be pretty feisty with her striking and the development of her overall game. She came into the UFC, knocked out Juliana Miller. We know Miller's low level, but still, you don't typically see a lot of first-round KOs in the women's flyweight division. She went out there and bested Stephanie Egger, a fighter that also has a high-level judo background. She submitted Maria Agapova, and then there was that big black eye, the blemish on her resume. That last fight that she had against Casey O'Neill was an ugly one. Okay, it was very ugly. She was outstruck 113-46. Okay, one of the judges, Evan Field, scored it 30-26. It really was a rough performance for Santos. Meanwhile, Lisboa is still continuing her winning streak, although it's against lower level fighters. But she has been fighting at 135. So that's maybe something that she has going for herself there. I think that Lisboa should definitely get the better of the striking exchanges if she can keep it there. I'm a little worried that maybe she can get taken down with some type of judo throw from Santos. If Santos closes the distance and we see things get a little ugly, maybe she could hit her with a little throw and get on top of her and use some of her jiu-jitsu skills that she has down there as well. But listen, Lisboa has shown some development with her grappling too, right? She had a submission not too long ago in the octagon, and I've been back and forth with where I was going to go with this fight, and I have settled in with Lisboa. Okay, that last fight that Santos had against O'Neal, I'm not high on O'Neal. You guys know I've been fading her for some time, and I've been cashing against her. Okay, she came into the UFC undefeated and all that, but we saw her taking her L's, and I just really didn't like the way that Santos looked. We'll see. We'll see what Lisboa has been doing coming off this long layoff. But if she's motivated, and I caught up with her on IG, she looks pretty good. The striking looks good, and we've seen some sparring from her. I think that she really should be able to get the better of the striking, and I'm going to bank on her being able to avoid being dominated down on the mat. So that's the way I'm going to go here. I'm going to pick Lisboa to win this fight. And this fight, the line is like dead even right now across the board. So pick your poison. I am going to pick Lisboa, who should have the better striking here. So both fighters here are coming up in weight, right? They're leaving the featherweight division, coming up to the lightweight division. Sodiq Yusuff, we haven't seen him in there in a while. It's been about a year. He's still only 31 years old. And although he's been taking some L's, you look at the level of competition that he's losing against, right? Diego Lopez, Edson Barbosa in that big main event fight. Went to a decision and he kind of broke down. Of course, that was a crazy one, but also took an L to Arnold Allen. Besides that, though, right, this was a fighter that we once had very high in our graces. And I want to highlight a fight that he had against Mike Davis. Okay, that's really where he stood out to me. Okay, because Mike Davis was a fighter that was on a lot of our radars going into that show. Okay, and when we were watching that fight take place, it was one of the more high-level fights that we saw in DWCS at the time, which the show was really just kicking off. But that kind of made us understand that, okay, these fighters are looking to work their way into the UFC, but there are some fighters that are coming into the show that are very high level. And I thought that was really a showing of that. And he was blasting Davis with the leg kicks and just was stuffing takedowns. He looked very good. And from there started to get a winning streak going on, which led him to that KO victory over Gabriel Benitez on the big UFC 241 card. Went out there, took out Andre Fili, a crafty veteran. And like I said, those 3 losses come by way of respectable talent. Meanwhile, on the other hand, Mairon Santos, all right, some of you guys, I know it hurts to even remember that Francis Marshall fight if you had action on him. Okay, I had action on Santos, all right, and I will admit that was one of those times where I was just jumping out of my chair where I was happy I got the decision. Santos probably should have lost that fight, but I will say that it was a lot closer than a lot of people really believed it to be. And Santos ran into trouble by being hurt in that first round, right? He got dropped at the end of the round in a first round that he was winning. Okay, he lost that round because of that. And then the other 2 rounds were a lot closer than people think. It was depending on whether you gave more credit to the control compared to Santos kind of just peppering the jab. He was landing a lot of jabs, but I agree. Marshall should have got the nod there. Okay, I'm not going to argue with you, but it was closer than some of you think. But I will say this, Santos did not look good. And then when you understand that all of his other victories are against lower level fighters, and then dating back to where he got finished by Daniel Argueta over in LFA, right? He got ground and pounded in the 3rd round. Maybe we do pump the brakes. In fact, we do pump the brakes on his hype. He's just 24 years old. He won the Ultimate Fighter. He went out there and knocked out Khan Ofli, who doesn't look to be that good of a fighter. You pump the brakes on Santos, and you can't sit here and really be that confident he's going to go out there and defeat a veteran like Sodiq Yusuff, who can do a little bit of it all. I have more faith in Yusuff. I think that Yusuff will be a little bit more grounded with his striking, whereas Santos may have issues getting started like he did against Marshall, or he may have some hiccups with defensively and kind of pause at the end of his strikes, and he could be there to be countered. Okay, and if you make a mistake like that, Yusuff can put your lights out. Okay, 6 KOs out of his 13 victories. He does possess power, and I think that he can get a knockout here. I don't feel overly confident stating that, but I mean, we could pick Yusuff to get a knockout, but at the end of the day, I like him to win this fight. I like Sodiq Yusuff to win this fight. He's going to have about a 2-inch reach advantage. He's very stout. I think he'll fill in to this division just fine. Both fighters are coming up. We'll see how they both look on the scales. And right now, Sodiq Yusuff Let's take a look at this line, man. We're calling another dog here. Yusuff is a plus 115. All right. I like the value on Yusuff. I've turned my back on Mairon Santos until he really starts to show me more. He's young and he could definitely turn it around, but that last fight wasn't good. And I don't like the fact that he admitted that he lost a fight. I don't like that. Some of you guys may like it. I don't. In a fight that was closer than people realize, he should go rewatch the tape on that. And even if you kind of think you lost, you still should be saying, I won that fight. I deserve to win that fight. I like fighters that have just uber confidence in themselves and don't even care about admitting if they think that they lost. I don't like that. So give me Sodiq Yusuff and keep an eye on him to land a counter KO in this fight. If the pace is high and they're exchanging early on, keep an eye on Yusuff landing a big hook and hurting Santos. And even if he doesn't get the knockout, he does significant damage and takes over the fight. Both of these fighters have been very active over the past year, specifically Mel Costa. I mean, he's been in there 3 times in the last couple months. And Erosa hasn't been as active over the long haul, but he was just in there for that huge UFC 314 fight card that I was there live for. If I'm being honest with you guys, as that fight was taking place, I was kind of doing some of my laps, enjoying myself. You guys know I was sitting right behind the Trumpster and all that, if you guys caught any of the videos I put up. But he did eventually get that finish in Elkins. I ran the tape back on it. I know people were giving him some heat for his performance, saying that the fight looked, he just looked kind of lethargic. It was a weird one again, but he did get Elkins out of there, and it's not really an easy thing to do. Erosa is a tricky fighter. He has some solid sub skills. He's very rangy for the division, and he's had some big victories. If you really run through his resume, he's taken out some big names in the fight game. So he's not really a fighter that you want to overlook, right? He's gone out there, submitted C-Rod, who's a talented fighter. You could mention the submission over Charles Jourdain, submitted Sean Woodson, which hasn't aged as good, but the knockout over Jamal Emmers on Dana White's Contender Series, where he was a dog. Like, he will come in as an underdog and he will shake things up. Okay. But the major thing that stands out to me when you look at Erosa is all of the knockout losses that he's had. Okay. There's a lot of them. Okay. 8 knockout losses out of 11 of his losses. Okay. And Mel Costa as a fighter, he's known as being more of a jiu-jitsu guy. Okay. Which his jiu-jitsu is phenomenal, but his striking is really starting to come around. He's very athletic. He's very quick. And I think that he could hurt Erosa in this fight. As they trade, I think that it's very likely he could hurt Erosa, just the way that Erosa fights. I mean, the fact that Bruce Leroy just went out there and finished him, Padilla just finished him. I mean, I can go on all the way back to his Artem Lobov knockout loss that he had on The Ultimate Fighter. Okay, so, and listen, you could bring up some of the knockout losses that Costa has taken too, right? Steve Garcia just put him out. And when you take a look at the overall numbers, I mean, he's been knocked out 2 times. Okay, so this isn't a fighter. He's been subbed twice as well. I want to bring that up. One of them against the high-level Thiago Moisés. Okay, but when he loses fights, yes, it can be prone to being finished. Okay, but I'm more concerned about Erosa being finished than Costa. I think that Costa is more on the up and up. He's just 28 years old, while Erosa's 35 and starting to take a little bit more damage throughout the years, or he's taken damage throughout the years. I like Costa here. I do. I like Costa. He just came through for me with that official play over Christian Rodriguez, showcasing the jiu-jitsu skills. Had 3 reversals down in the mat, had about 5 minutes of control time against C-Rod, and that was a solid performance. He dug deep in it, and I like Mel Costa. I will back him here. Now, he's a minus 207. That line, it's a tad bit high. You know, Erosa, it does bring his own threat to the cage. It's a tad bit high, but I like Costa. I like Costa to get the job done, and I'm going to call him to win this fight via KO. How about that? So we have the UFC debut of the young Nova União product, Matheus Camilo. He's taking on Gabriel Green, who's been away from the cage for some time. Okay, but we know him as kind of a crafty veteran. He kind of has that fighting style, if you guys know what I'm talking about. But he does come into this fight going through some adversity, coming off some losses. Now, Camilo, we're going to talk about him first here real quick. He's just 24 years old. If you don't know the whole backstory, first off, I think people are really putting a lot of stock into him because he comes out of Nova União and because he just had that victory over kind of a notable fight that took place in the regional scene. It took place under the Korean Zombies promotion where he defeated Dorabashok Nabotov, who is that fighter, if you guys remember at the press conference, that asked for an opportunity to fight in the UFC, right? He reached out to Dana. Dana gave him that opportunity. It was kind of like an eliminator. So the winner of that fight got an opportunity to come in, and he went out there. He got the unanimous decision. Okay, now he also has a respectable victory over Dorian Ramos. Ramos is a tough fighter. If you're not familiar with him, that took place at Fury FC. We saw Ramos fight on Dana White's Contender Series. He pulled off the third round triangle hybrid armbar, right? Had the double sub there on Ramos. You could pull that fight up on YouTube. If you pull up his highlight reel on YouTube, you'll see him landing some nasty KOs as well. Okay, he's gone out there and starched dudes. He does seem to be a pretty dangerous fighter. Out of his 9 victories, he's only went to a decision 3 times, right? So 2/3 of his fights are being finished. You could expect to see that continued growth, but I'll tell you what, Gabe Green, when he's motivated, that's one thing I think you want to kind of look into too. How motivated is he for this fight as he comes in off the layoff? But he has showcased that he could be a problem, right? He went out there, defeated Philip Rowe. I think he was a dog in that fight. I think he was also a dog against Johan Linnes, who had a lot of hype behind him going to that fight. We since realized that Linnes is not a good fighter, not a refined fighter, but still he went out there, broke him down, got the finish. And he does have a victory over Chris Padilla back in the day over in Bellator. So, he has some things going for himself. He's a physical dude. Sometimes he'll keep the fight standing and he'll use his kickboxing skills to outpoint you and to defeat you. But he is coming off, what's the most alarming one, of course, is the loss against Brian Battle, where he got knocked out in 14 seconds. That fight was not a good look for him. The Ian Gary loss, I mean, Gary's a stud. He lost the decision to him there, so that's not really that bad. The D-Rod fight in his UFC debut, not the worst look. Okay, but I do believe that Gabe Green can come in here and he can shake things up and make this a very challenging fight for the young fighter in Camilo. Okay, Green is more of a veteran. He's more physically mature, and I think this could be a fight that plays out closely. But I will take the youngster. I will take the youngster. He looks pretty promising to me, and I think that he's starting to get some momentum going here. And I will take Matheus Camilo to get the job done, and I think that he's live to get a finish. He definitely can get a finish here. We'll see how Green looks coming back into the cage, but I could also see Camilo outpointing him. Even if it goes there, he could outpoint him on the scorecards. This is a tough one for me to pick. Give me Camilo to get a finish and his UFC debut. So this fight has to be fireworks, right? At 185, Nursulton Ruziboev taking on Dustin Stoltzfus. I mean, both of these fighters bring the fight, especially when you take a look at what they've been doing as of recently. Stoltzfus is looking to go to war. All right, we initially used to look at him as more of like a grappling-based fighter. Of course, you remember the fighter where he tried to hit, or he did hit Pyfer with that judo throw and dislocated Pyfer's arm there and got the W. Okay, but if you take a look at what he's been doing as of recently, okay, he's looking to close the distance and show that evolved striking that he possesses. It cost him in the Bruno Ferreira fight. He was countered and got knocked out at the tail end of that first round, but he landed his own damage early on. But he bounced back with a crazy finish over MAB, right? Marc-Andre Barriault went out there, smashed him in the first round. Submitted Punalehi Seriano. I mean, there's some stuff to talk about here, but he is prone to being finished when he loses, right? Abbas Magomedov finished him in just 19 seconds. Gerald Mearshart subbed him. Okay, and typically when he's losing a fight, he's being finished. And really, as of recently, right, when he's winning a fight, he's getting a finish. And when you take a look at Ruziboev looks to hit you big strikes. He has that very long frame, and he looks to extend himself and put you out. That's what he did against Meconico, who took that fight on short notice, of course. Knocked out Dumas in the first round, knocked out Bruno Ferreira. We were just talking about him. You run through his whole resume, even fighting outside the UFC. There's just a continuous amount of finishes going on here. Just that one blemish was the Buckley fight, and that's where we saw him exposed a little bit with his wrestling, right, and his takedown defense. Buckley got on top of him and really controlled that fight. That's an element that Stoltzfus can possibly use against him. Stoltzfus has some grappling ability. I'm not really banking on that, though. I think that these guys are going to clash. They're going to throw down. And don't be shocked if we see Ruziboev knocked out as well in this matchup. Okay, don't be shocked. I'm telling you, Stoltzfus has looked pretty damn good with his striking. He's still a little stiff and upright, like we've seen from him in the past. Yes, he still does have a little bit of that Frankenstein syndrome going, but offensively, he's gotten a lot better. Okay, and he possesses power. And as they trade, anything could really happen, but I do favor Ruziboev being the fighter that lands the knockout. Okay, Stoltzfus is he's lacking defensively a little bit more so, and I could see him being knocked out. In fact, I will say Ruziboev knocks him out here on the main card. We take a look at the line. Ruziboev's a big favorite. He's right around a 3-1 favorite, right around a -300. I think that the line should be a little closer. When Stoltzfus steps in there and he looks to make it a tornado type of fight, you never know exactly how it's going to play out. I wouldn't be extremely comfortable with that -300 line on Ruziboev. Okay. And again, we talked about him lacking defensively wrestling, although he's continuously working on that. But give me Ruziboev to get the knockout. Paul Craig goes back up to the light heavyweight division. If you guys remember, he was talking about retiring like 3 or 4 years ago, right? He said he was going to have like one more fight at the tail end of 2023 or whatever year it was. And then here he is. I might have even been tail end of 2022 going into 2023 or whatever. Here he is battling in 2025 at the age of 37. He's going back up in weight. He's taken on Rodolfo Bellato, a fighter that has quickly proven to be very entertaining. Okay, and now he went to a draw with Jimmy Crute. I had an official play on him in that fight. Of course, I just get my money returned to me. That was a great event for me. That was a play that should have cashed, in my opinion. I mean, I guess it's easy to say that in retrospect, but Bellato made a mistake in the first round, and it cost him there, right? He was hurt, but you saw when he got his wits, he was the superior fighter. He should have slowed the pace down to that fight and really used his striking. He's well-rounded. He's a gladiator. He's very tough. And as long as he avoids playing the grappling game with Paul Craig, I mean, I expect him to hurt Craig on the feet. We know what the recipe is to go out there and go out there and defeat a fighter like Craig, and not only defeat him, but go out there and finish him. Okay, we've seen him hurt very badly throughout the years. There's a lot of finishes and knockout losses going on in Craig's resume. Even in some fights where he's came back and prevailed, like against Nikita Krylov, he pulled off the sub. He was hurt early on in that fight. He was on his back. Johnny Walker KO'd him in the first. I mean, there's all types of finishes going on here. In his last fight, he took that L against Bo Nickel. We don't need to talk about old Bo there, guys. But, I mean, listen, this is the way I see the fight going. I think that Bellato, if he fights an intelligent fight, she creates space and uses striking to hurt Craig and get a knockout. And that's what I'm going to say happens in this fight. However, Bellato has shown to have lower fight IQ at times. He's shown a little bit too much to be willing to just go to war and just let things play out wildly. And a fighter like Paul Craig can take advantage of you in those types of situations when you got wild scrambles going on and whatnot. Paul Craig can submit you. We all know Paul Craig has victories over the current light heavyweight champion and Magomed Ankalaev. He has a victory over the former champion Jamal Hill. I mean, he has the ability to go out there and defeat anybody. And a situation like that definitely can arise, but I feel more comfortable taking Bellato to get a knockout in this fight. So another knockout call. I'm going to be right on some of these. You guys watch, but right now Bellato is a -450 essentially. He's a huge favorite. I don't like the value there. I really don't. Paul Craig is always live to sneak up on you and spoil your play there. So I like the value on the dog for sure, based on where this is. With Craig being as high as a +310, I just don't like the value on the Bellato line, but he probably gets a KO and gets a finish of Craig. And that takes us to the main event. Gilbert Burns faces off with Michael Morales. Ranked action here. Morales, just 25 years old, already ranked 12th in this division. Burns still ranked 8th. He's 38 years old. He's at the very tail end of his career. He could hold his head up high. Of course, he had a great career when it was all said and done. I still remember him being like Vitor Belfort's young disciple, coming in with that jiu-jitsu background, but kind of getting exposed a little bit early on, right, when he faced off against the Brazilian cowboy, Alex Oliveira. Let's see if we could pull it up when that fight was. This was back in the day, man. He was a youngster. It's crazy how time's flying. That was 10 years ago. Okay, so he was 28, actually. So got a little bit of a late start to his UFC career, but he did get the comeback in the third round. He pulled off that armbar, and he was down on the scorecards. But he quickly showed how talented he was with his jiu-jitsu. Also subbed my boy Christos Giagos in the first round. I mean, he's had a successful career. Of course, it all leading up to the biggest fight that we've ever seen him have, which was the Kamaru Usman championship bout, right, where he broke down and got finished. That was his opportunity to be the kingpin of the division. But you could also mention the Khamzat Chimaev fight that he had. I was there for that live. A lot of people thought that he won that fight. I mean, that's one of the better performances that he's had. Now he's on a 3-fight losing skid. Take a look at the names, though. Sean Brady, Jack Della Maddalena, and Bilal Muhammad. I mean, talking about the cream of the crop. And the Jack Della fight he had in the bag up until he didn't, until he got finished in the third round. He had a lot of control time going on there. And I mean, listen, Michael Morales is a different type of fighter. Okay, this is a fighter that's much more complete. He has great wrestling abilities. He's a great striker. Okay, this is a fighter that's going to take those steps and those leaps rapidly in front of our eyes. He's so young. Just knocked out Neil Magny in the first round. He outstruck Jake Mathews. I mean, he could slow the pace down and just kind of outclass you there. Or if you want to get in a crazy type of fight, he can knock you out as well. So I've been very impressed with him, dating back to that Dana White's Contender Series debut fight that he had over Nikolay Veretinikov, where kind of just crept up on us. You know, at least he crept up on me. He was the dog in that fight, and then we quickly learned about him. Dana White was talking about how he has the potential to be one of the greats in the fight game, and it kind of caught me off guard. And then as you see the performances ring off, we understand why. Brings in crazy physical traits, and I think that he's going to be able to hurt Gilbert Burns in this fight. I do. If Gilbert looks to really go to war here, I think that we see Gilbert finished up. All right, this is a 5-round fight. I'm going to say another knockout happens here. Okay, guys, maybe it's the coffee going, but I'm calling knockouts one after another, and we're going to see some. Trust me, we're going to see some. On a card like this, a lower level card that's just under the radar, you're going to see a lot of knockouts taking place in the apex. I'm going to say that Burns runs into damage and he gets finished up, right? He's coming in off a knockout loss. Michael Morales can finish him here. So give me Morales to win this fight and to get a finish. He's a huge favorite. He's creeping up on 7-1 odds. He's creeping up on being a minus 700. You probably will see that come to fruition. You'll probably see that line continue to get steamed. People like him, and it's warranted. All right, so Michael Morales to get a TKO stoppage. And then the question is what does Burns do next? Does he retire? I don't think he will. I think he'll have one more fight after that, and he'll look to get a W before it's all said and done. Maybe against a lower level fighter. Maybe the UFC will hook him up with a better opportunity to get his hand raised than facing off against this phenom with these freakish athletic traits. All right, guys, that's going to wrap this one up. Please hit the comment section up below. I'm genuinely curious what you guys thought of this video, because I did this one very differently than I normally do it. I was much quicker with my predictions, and I didn't have the videos going up on the segments showing the fighters at the pads and all that. Do you guys like the quicker type video like this, or do you guys like me to really go thoroughly through each fight and get all the videos going and all that? I would love to hear from you guys what you think about that. And don't forget, I have that special offer. If you guys sign up through my referral link to Bovada, I will give you my entire slate for this card for free. I've got to leave you with some quick parting words. We'll just make it simple. Make sure you're loving yourself. That's very important. Make sure you're looking into the mirror and telling yourself you're the man. Got to feel confident in yourself. You got to show yourself love. If you're not doing that, no one else is. Remember that, guys. So take care of yourself. It goes all the way down the line. Eat good, work out, but also love yourself. Love who you are. You are your best friend. So remember that, guys. All right. I hope you all have a great weekend. And we have no fights taking place next weekend. So we'll get some content going up here on the channel. But until I see you next time, I appreciate you guys. You guys all have a great week. Have a great 2 weeks. Signing out. Teller.
The teller. The teller. The teller.